Hello, thank you for watching Taxpayer Alert. I'm Al Segalla. I'll be your moderator, and also I'm president of the Calaveras County Taxpayer Association, which means we're interested in taxes, and we interview not only government officials but also others that have knowledge about what's happening in the county. Well, this is no exception. We're really honored to interview Chief Mike Johnson, the Ebbetts Pass Fire District, and he'll talk a little bit about what's happening up the hill. But before we do that, I'd like to mention that I'm really proud of this man. He was nominated by Supervisor Mike Calaveras for our award for excellence in public service for this year. And yesterday at our board of directors meeting with the Calaveras County Taxpayer Association, they approved that award. So welcome, Mike, and congratulations.
Al, hey, thank you very much, and I'm humbled to be nominated, and even more so to have received the award. Thank you very much.
Well, we're more proud than you are. It's just wonderful. These awards are a very positive thing. We're trying to increase the number of awards, but we have to get some volunteers to help us, and we haven't quite got the volunteers together yet, but hopefully we will. And then so the future years maybe we'll have 5, but in any case we can do 1. Okay.
Fantastic. Well, keep up the good work, and thank you again.
Now, how'd you get involved in this fire business? Isn't that dangerous?
Yeah. You know, I'd have to say at a really young age, in the small town that I grew up in Northern California, not too far from here, some of the key role models in the community, in my opinion, was the fire department and the local volunteers that ran that fire department. They were folks that I looked up to, and when it came that time in a young person's, young adulthood to decide what they're going to do in society, it seemed like that was a good fit, and it provided some adventure along the way. And I joined the volunteer fire staff there when I was eligible to at 18, and the rest is so-called history.
Oh, wow. So you never deviated to any other profession?
You know, I had a lot of interest in many things, obviously, but, fire service has always been my primary focus as a profession, and honestly, I've been, thoroughly blessed through the fire service as well. I feel like it's always been provided a great opportunities for me and allowed me to provide for my family, and I'm, overwhelmed by what the fire service has meant to me and continues, and my fire and desire for the fire service to continue to stay dynamic and progressive and evolve with it is as great as it's ever been, honestly.
Tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, my family and I, we live in Arnold, and that's within our district, and we've lived there since 2014, and that's when I got hired with Ebbetts Pass Fire District. I have a son and my wife, and my mother-in-law also lives with us, so we're a family of 4. And we've enjoyed Arnold since moving there. It was a dynamic change, if you will, from the city of Las Vegas, Nevada, that we came from. So went from the Mojave Desert, where it's pretty arid and dry, to the beautiful Sierra Nevada mountains, and where we have beautiful trees and scenery that's unbelievable.
And snow.
And snow, yes. I think snow maybe as we speak. So
now, your mother-in-law lives with you.
That's correct.
Now, how do your mother-in-law and you get along?
Oh, well, apparently good enough to live with each other,
Okay,
and,
well, that's a good thing.
It is, and no, she's a special lady, and honestly, we've been obviously family for over 17 years. My wife and I have been married, and she's my mom too, and so we get along rather well. She puts up with me in the snow, so it must be okay.
Well, actually, having two women in the house can be a blessing because they can do more work.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
I'm not going to jump on that.
Whoops! I hope your mother-in-law's not watching.
No, I'm very lucky at home, very lucky at work too. So I'm very thankful.
No, it's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Now, the local government fire agencies in Calaveras County, who are they and how do they operate? And how did this whole thing get started?
Well, Ebbetts Pass Fire District, where I work, had a 50th anniversary back in 2015. And so it's been in existence since 1965. And initially, our fire district was kind of put into place for the purpose of having a staff and people to respond to emergencies when, CAL FIRE or CDF back then wasn't here when the bad forest season was. So things evolved, and the district evolved along with it. And along with that, as it grew, and with the dynamics of the ever-growing responsibilities that are placed on the fire service agencies. So, for example, as the 80s came along, EMS, emergency medical services, EMTs, paramedics became part of the fire service arena as well, and the district embraced that. And it's always been a progressive fire district and something that drew me to the fire district, as a matter of fact. So it evolved to the point where it became the advanced life support, meaning paramedicine, the highest street level medicine we can provide out there, is the responsibility of Ebbetts Pass Fire District in our area, meaning that we're the ground transport, the ambulance service for our area. We also have paramedics on our fire engines, so we can provide advanced level care to the community members or people that are visiting our area from the fire engine. The only difference is we can't transport in the fire engine naturally, but we have a couple of ambulances that do that service for us. That's from within house. So you've got that piece. Swift water rescue on the Stanislaus River. We have a swift water skilled staff that can do some swift water rescue. And we've even got some other technical type folks that are on staff that can help us with, high angle rope rescue and things like that. Obviously, we live in a mountainous terrain. Right. And, we've even recently involved a UTV program that allows us to reach some of the country because of the 225 square miles. A lot of it is forested area, federal and privately owned. And when people recreate, which is a fantastic thing to do, by the way, we can access them. And in deep snow, for instance, this weekend, we'll have the ability to have snow tracks and access places with our staff to provide a service if needed out there. So, that's the district's really special, and it's really the people that came before me that made it into what it is, today. And we feel like we're a progressive fire service provider in the state of California. And
you said you have snow track vehicles that can go on top of the snow?
We do now. We have one specifically. It's a utility terrain vehicle. It's essentially a utility vehicle that probably some folks would use on a ranch or even for recreation use, and we use it for rescue.
Does it have tracks on it?
It does, yes, sir. Yeah, and we're able to float right on top of the snow like a snowmobile.
How many people can it hold?
Well, we can put 3 people inside the environmentally controlled cab, so it's got a heater in the cab, which in this time of year, that's very important, especially if you're somebody we're pulling out of the wilderness that's cold. Right. And then we also have the ability to put an attendant, paramedic in the back to work on a patient. If you have a C-spine immobilization requirements, we can put you on a backboard essentially and put you into a specially designed basket for that particular vehicle and transport you out that way too.
So you could save lives.
Absolutely, yes, sir. That's the goal, is to rapidly access you and then rapidly extract you and get you to a greater facility, a hospital or trauma center, whatever it needs to be, as quickly as and safely as we can.
The only thing you don't have is a helicopter.
Oh, yes, and thankfully we have great, providers for both air medical transport.
So you don't need
in our
one,
area.
you have
Well,
one.
they're out there, right? So we
Right.
call them, and they come, and between CHP and Cal Fire, they have hoist capabilities on their helicopters. So whether we're extracting somebody in conjunction with the search and rescue efforts that come out of the sheriff's department, and getting somebody up and out and to a landing zone where maybe we transfer them over to a medical type helicopter and get them transported that way. So yeah, we'll get it done.
That's cool. You mentioned something about Swift River. What's that about?
So Swift Water Rescue, Stanislaus River is another place where folks, like to go and recreate. And from time to time, depending on the flows, we have, we have people that need to be rescued. And so our staff has the equipment and the training to go ahead and make those swift water rescue happen for those folks. So depending on where they're at and the access points, sometimes those can be challenging, but we have the proper suits and the protective equipment to get our folks down there and make a rescue. So really proud of the folks in our agency that do that kind of work for us.
So you have a person with a wetsuit and a rope around him, and that keeps them from being washed away. And then he swims to the person that's in the river, and then brings them back. Is that how it works?
Well, every situation's a little bit different, and it's not exactly as easy as putting attaching somebody to rope and having them go out. The river's swift; it's swift for all of us,
right?
And we usually set up some sort of a specified mechanism that we can actually have somebody, attached to and get them pulled up there. We have different variations of ways to get ropes across the river. Perhaps we need to make a diagonal line that actually allows for somebody to attach onto. And there's...
Oh, like if they're hanging on a rock and you can't get to them, you can maybe run a line above them?
Sometimes in a layman's perspective, maybe we'll get the rope to come down from upriver down to them in that regard. Maybe we'll set something up below them, but it all kind of depends on the situation.
Wow.
And it really relies on the training of our folks and the experience that they bring along with them. And I tell you what, we got some really good folks that are brilliant and far exceed my ability in that particular arena, and we look to them for those calls when the time comes.
So it looks like if any teenagers are watching this, you might want to go into this field. It sounds pretty exciting.
It certainly is.
Okay, now we move to Proposition 172 funding for public safety. What's this all about?
All right, so this is, probably falls right into your arena from the Taxpayers Association, I would imagine, is back in 1993, Proposition 172 was passed for public safety entities, and essentially it was a half-cent sales tax that was originally, if I understand it correctly, to help offset the amount of property tax that was collected for some of the years where property taxes go up and down, where Prop 172 would help augment some of those things to keep our public safety, services, funded. And we're very excited, and we're very, thankful for the working with Calaveras County officials and getting some of those funds that are going to the local fire service now. And that started in 2017, and it's fantastic. We're getting something out there that's a different type of, taxation that's going to your local fire service that's helping them provide service to their community members and visitors.
How much money is raised by this half-cent sales tax?
Well, approximately 1.7 million gets collected annually, or at least last year, from Prop 172 into Calaveras County, and your local fire services is receiving specifically 10% during that time frame. So it's a really nice piece for your local fire service to do some additional things for the folks there.
Now, okay, you collect $1.7 million from the taxpayer.
Sure.
And 10% goes for its purpose of supporting you. Where's the other 90% go?
Well, public safety is a lot more than the fire service. And,
okay.
I certainly would sit here and love for you to tell me that, hey, all that would go to your local fire service, because that's obviously where I work, right? But it's multifaceted, right? So public service, but it's specific to going to specific areas of public service. It can't be used for anything else. And we're very fortunate to be getting that. And I think if you looked statewide, as far as if fire service entities are receiving some of those Proposition 172 funds, you'd find that just a handful are. And so I wanted to let the public know too that we're fire service in Calaveras County receiving that. We're amongst a select few, and we're thankful for it, and we want to see that keep on coming.
That could be the reason why you have a snowcat.
You know what? I can give you specific reasons for it, how we ended up with a snowcat, and one of them is the outstanding support that we get from our community up in Ebbetts Pass Fire District. Our annual fundraiser allowed us to buy the UTV. Our submission to the off-highway vehicle grant, that is the green sticker funds that the state collects for off-highway vehicles, provided the track system that I mentioned. It also provided the enclosed and heated cab, a trailer to transport the vehicle, and our partners at SPI, Sierra Pacific Industries, had bought us the EMS skid that fits in the back, because obviously they have a vested interest of us being able to access their forested area when in need of a medical emergency. So it was as you can see, it was a collaboration, and you realize I didn't mention any of our local property tax had funded any of that project. So we look for alternative fundings and ways to enhance our abilities to respond while trying to maintain the best service model from the primary revenue stream, which is property tax for the local fire service.
One of the things that is concerned everybody is forest fires, and we've had some pretty serious ones in the last period of time, and not just the Butte fire, but also the federal lands. The Forest Service is highly vulnerable to forest fires now, where in previous years it was not the case. And one of the reasons for that is that private logging on public lands was almost completely stopped. And one of the things I understand that Congressman McClintock's doing is trying to get that revived and get those trees. The trees are, according to him, are either going to burn out or be carried out. Being carried out is better. And so it might be that we'll have different change of policy, which could reduce the fire danger and then make your life less dangerous.
That would be great, wouldn't it? Yeah.
So when there is a forest fire, I imagine your job mainly is to protect the populated areas, and you don't get involved as much as the state in fighting the forest fire. Is that correct or not?
Well, everything that we do is largely involving mutual aid. So not one entity in the state of California is large enough to take care of everything that they're probably responsible for.
So it's collaborative. You work together.
Very collaborative, yes, sir. And just to give you a snapshot is, if we require extra hands, we'll definitely lean on our partners, whether it be the state foresting agency, which is CAL FIRE, or partnering or local government agencies that are adjacent to us. And just to give you an idea, on a structure fire, we may see 4 or 5 agencies mutual aiding us, and we'll go mutual aid them as well. So that brings us to the bigger, broader scheme of what goes on California statewide when we have these devastating forest fires.
Yeah.
And how does that work for your local government fire service? And so I wanted to maybe shed a little bit of light as to when we deploy, strike teams of engines, meaning 5 engines and a leader with that, and that group, gets deployed to various parts of the state of California, and that's essentially deployed through the Cal OES manages a contract for local government, and it's called the California Firefighters Assistance Agreement. And essentially, it allows for local government to respond and to assist when they have appropriate papers or resource orders, what we call it, to go there and assist. And Calaveras County is very active to help the others around us. And just like we received help here in 2015 for the Butte fire, when we had 7,000 firefighters here helping us with suppression of that fire, we go other places in the state to help suppress their fires. And the real important thing is that through these agreements, we're able to mobilize quickly and swiftly to try to mitigate and keep fires as small as they possibly can. Now, if I'm a taxpayer naturally and own a home, maybe I would ask the question, well, does that funding come from my taxes? Am I funding an operation maybe
one way or the other
of the Thomas fire, right? So, are my local government folks that are going down there? And the answer is, as far as our response out of our areas, we're getting reimbursed through that mechanism through that contract that Cal OES manages,
right.
And therefore it's not costing or taking a tax, revenue that's generated from your property tax for local fire services, not funding those things. We are getting reimbursed, and so that's a good thing to know. That depending on where you want to follow the dollars.
Well, the reverse would be true also. If they came to help you, you would be reimbursing them.
Well, through the state, thankfully, we have some very, very robust mechanisms that pay for those emergencies, and once the emergency goes beyond a state of emergency at the county level, then it gets kicked to the state level. And if it doesn't stop at the state level and it's not just a state of emergency, then it gets kicked up to a federal emergency, just like we've seen with the tree mortality issue. The Thomas fire, I'm sure, is probably biggest fire in California.
Storm
damage. So, and wherever that state of emergency lands or ends is usually where the dollars are coming from to pay for it. So if a county or a state, they declare the state or the county emergency and it goes to the higher level, that's usually where the emergency dollars end up coming from.
All right. The transit occupancy tax. We're talking about tax. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. And I promise to be fair and balanced.
That's a powerful word, isn't it? Right. So the TOT, transient occupancy tax, or the hotel tax, I've heard it called that other places too. Mm-hmm. This was one other piece that, once again, through the workings with your local fire districts and working with the county last year, the local fire districts started to receive 25% of what's collected there. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of what that is when you go to vacation somewhere and you stay at a hotel, there's an additional fee or a tax, and whatever they're referring to it as, that gets collected above and beyond whatever the rate is or what have you. And when you come to Calaveras County, that is the case as well. So, and essentially what happens is the people that are coming in to recreate and stay and increase our regular population to a transient population, let's say it skyrockets to 5 times the normal population, and with 5 times the amount of people, it generally equates to 5 times the amount of services for call. And for services for call for your public safety or emergency, you want to be able to fund them to make sure that they have extra staffing or are able to augment that so the level of services stay up. So if it's you need a couple more units to run all the emergency calls Saturday and Sunday, then it could be used for that. So beginning last year, we're very thankful we got 25% of that collection of that transient occupancy tax, and once again going towards services for the community and the people that come and visit and recreate here.
I understand that sales tax goes up too when we have visitors. They buy things.
Oh, for the sales tax, correct. So, and that sales tax kind of equates back to that Prop 172 as well.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
There's some effort afoot to raise the TOT tax from 6% to 10%. And the justification is that the people that come here won't know the difference because other places charge 10% or more. And our thought with the Taxpayer Association, maybe we should use that as a selling point. Come to Calaveras County, we tax you less. But I don't know if that slogan's going to fly or not. There's pretty powerful forces at work to raise that TOT tax. One thing that's not talked about is indirect consequences on taxation. If you increase a person's expenses coming to our county, say $100, that $100 would otherwise be spent on other things in our county. So also, if their budget does not allow, if they're at the borderline where they really can't afford to come here, and by bumping up even though it's a little bit, you're reducing the amount of people that could come here, even though you don't know that they're not coming. So a good way to look at that, in my opinion, is to expand the amount of money to hire them out, and you'll see clearly what's happening. And then so when you reduce that amount, it's still happening, but less and less and less. But so when you have a negative force working against the public, like taxation, it has consequences. And hopefully, even if we do have a 10% TOT tax, I won't fight it. But I'm hoping that we can stay with our 6%. So local government fire agents in Calaveras County help fight fires throughout California. Oftentimes we send mutual aid to help combat devastating fires. So this is what you were talking about, where you work in other areas to help those people.
Right.
Now, how dangerous is being a fireman in Calaveras County?
Well, I think it's inherently dangerous across the board, Al. I mean,
I know it's dangerous being a policeman too.
It is, and we, unfortunately have had loss of lives of our responders, in this past year during the fire season, and that's sends a real clear message of how serious this job is, and I mean that as in for all the folks that are just now getting, into the business, that it's as serious as it gets. It's as real as it gets, and it has ultimate consequences. And our jobs as managers and leaders are to minimize that and mitigate it as best as we can. And
good training, good equipment reduces the risk.
Absolutely, good training, good equipment, and it's kind of comes full circle, right? And the way we get those things is by the support of the community we serve.
Yeah.
So it's all connected, and we can't have one without the other. And I think if you have, you see a direct connection with, having those or not having it as to how many injuries you may have.
Well, I tell you, our taxpayer group wishes you a very safe and long career in Calaveras County. And Mike, we want to thank you for being our guest.
Thank you, Al. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we look forward to the August barbecue where you're going to get your award.
Okay, all right. I'm looking forward to it too. Thank you again.
Thank you for watching Taxpayer Alert. We'll see you next time.